Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weisheit, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much here at HTV. And we're always glad to bring on people that can give us some updates about how things are going. And we have relied very heavily on FEMA and the things that they have done. So we welcome back to the program Gerard Hammock. Welcome to the program again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. So as the FEMA Media Relations Specialist, Gerard, tell us a little bit about what you guys are seeing out on the ground, feet on the ground, if you will, about what we're doing in the recovery process.
Well, the main thing as far as FEMA goes right now is the housing mission, the temporary housing, getting those travel trailers and mobile homes out to people and into on their private properties, as well as in various parks around the area. So that is the bulk of what FEMA is doing right now.
Right.
But we are continuing to have our disaster recovery centers open in the area, and we just opened a new one in Houma. It's at the East Park Recreation Center at 107 Roberts Street. And that's a little bit off the beaten path, but it was they found a good parking lot where we could set up our big tent and keep it open there for a while. We had a center at the Houma Civic Center,
right,
but that we had to close that one just because they needed that space, and sometimes that's why these centers move around. But ever since that one closed at the Civic Center, they've been looking for a new space, and they found that at the parking lot of the East Park Recreation Center.
Yeah.
So I just looked at the numbers. People have found out about it. They did have 50 visitors through about 3 p.m. yesterday.
Okay.
So that's a lot of people. That's a good number of people that they were helping with their, processing their appeals, just getting questions answered, as well as people coming to deal with the SBA about their low-interest loans.
Okay. And one of those things that you need to know is that's very centrally located. And so we're very glad that is in that particular location. It's not that far from where the other one was located at the Civic Center. And uniquely enough, that was at one time kind of the hub. That was one of the big recreation centers in the area over on the east side. And now with the Twin Span where it is, we're able to get to it pretty quickly and pretty easily. And so we're glad that y'all found some new space.
Well, FEMA always works with the local officials to find good spaces. So.
Right. And also finding out and making sure, where the need is and how to access that. And so we've had several locations down the bayou. We had several disaster recovery centers, and they didn't have a lot of volume. They didn't have a lot of people coming to it.
I think that the people who work down in Montague and Cutoff were happy to be of service down there, closer to where some people lived. But going forward, but those just closed this week. And so going forward, we're going to have the center here in Houma. And then there's the center in Lafourche Parish in Raceland at the Lafourche Parish government offices there on the Highway 1.
Right,
Highway 1.
Right. And
so those two are going to be the main FEMA access points for applicants going forward.
Right. And again, people need to go and apply. They need to do that application if they haven't.
Well, yeah, the application period is over.
It's closed. That's right.
So
That's right.
You would have to have extenuating circumstances for an exception to that.
Okay.
If that's your situation, maybe the best place to explain that is face-to-face, eye-to-eye at a disaster recovery center.
Right.
So that you can really explain what your situation was, why you need help, and and just to make sure we get that out there, those are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, so 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, Saturday 9 to 2.
Yes.
And so, again, that's a lot of time that is available for people to do follow-up to their claim and to things that they've done and looked at through FEMA and through the application that they put in.
Yeah. And they'll
whatever that
remain
is.
open as long as there's need, and FEMA looks at both the basic, data of how many people are coming in, but it's also in consultation with the local officials, and I'm sure that the local officials in Terrebonne and Lafourche are going to, if they think there's still a need, they're going to push for centers to remain open as long as needed.
Well, sure. President Dove here, President Chasson in both Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes, they stay very much in tune. And I know they work very closely with you guys about trying to figure out kind of where we are and what the next step is. And so one of those things that I don't know that people really understand is that FEMA's got several phases, and there's a process that you guys kind of go through with our recovery period. And so kind of just walk us through how that goes, if you don't mind, Gerard.
Well, as far as, a lot of the phase that we're sort of getting towards the end of is the phase of awarding grants for, housing, for repairs, for uninsured losses, for, temporary rental assistance. So, for the 25 parishes that were part of this disaster declaration, FEMA has awarded grants totaling $1.1 billion.
Wow.
And for Lafourche, that's $110 million, and for Terrebonne, that's $138 million. Those numbers, you could see them go up, daily as the cases were processed by the computer and the people of FEMA, and those direct deposits went out. But lately, it's sort of just stayed at about just a little bit over 1.1 billion. Okay. So that's, most of that has been, is finished, although there are the people appealing and the people who have continuing needs. So it's not over, but that's where we are, working more on the longer term recovery or mid-term recovery. Okay. I'll just mention that the housing mission is up and running. It's slower than anyone likes, but we do have 700 units occupied in the 10 parishes that qualified for that program, and 239 of those are in Lafourche and 186 are in Terrebonne. And there's, if people are out and about, they're probably seeing these plain-looking mobile homes. That's probably a FEMA mobile home on someone's property often, and so we're just working to get those all ready and hand over the keys. It's a slow process, but we're at it every day on that.
Right, and it is a process, and that's what people need to keep in mind is that you've got to make sure that everything is correct, permitting is right, and electricity is correct, and
and we're working closely with the parishes on that. So that's really helping.
Right, and that's exactly right. And so the permit departments are really very overworked. We talked about that with several of the representatives from local governments about that, and what they're doing to kind of share staff to help with that, and getting those permitting done. And then there's the people with the SBA loans, and so that's kind of the next kind of phase of that as well.
Yeah. So for that, there's about approved anyway, and this $1,106 million for homeowners.
Wow.
So that's low interest loans to pay for repairs that weren't insured and
and not initially covered.
Yeah.
And people can apply for those things, and it's really interesting that they're. And I'll just give my example. We just considered a lot of the things that weren't being covered, that weren't covered by insurance, and that we needed to get done in that SBA loan. They came out and did an evaluation, and we got approved for a lot more than we feel like we need. And so you can either call or go to one of the disaster recovery centers and talk with them about that to kind of move that process along if you've gotten some of that paperwork in. You don't have to take that amount you can talk with them about that and adjust it.
Right, right. And you can pay it back early, and
There's no penalty for that.
right, and or you can take a long time to do it as well. But yeah, it's just important to for people who are, as they're trying to work through their repairs and everything. Maybe if they already applied with FEMA and they didn't apply for a loan, then they can go back and maybe look at that option to see how that could help them.
Right.
It's not obviously it's not ideal. It's not a grant or an insurance payment, but it just takes all those streams, I would say, for people to get back.
Yeah, and we're talking between the SBA loans that were approved and for the monies that were paid out, we're talking just over $2.2 billion.
Exactly, yeah.
In South Louisiana for people in their recovery, and that's remarkable to me. Those are some huge numbers.
There's just a lot of damage. So.
Oh, clearly.
I mean,
when you get what was told as a 4, but we down here believe it was a 5, category 5, you're going to have that kind of damage, and we still have that extensive damage, and we know that FEMA is here and that they're present and they're working with us, and again, like you mentioned several times about housing, it's slower than people would like, but it's a process, and we're working on it, and this is kind of the next phase. And so we're going to continue this phase, as you said, with the disaster recovery process, housing as needed for as long as the local government and you guys kind of determine their need is here.
Yep. So the disaster recovery centers, East Park Recreation Center in Homa, and at the Lafourche government offices in Raceland.
And so they've gone down from several different places in each parish to now one in each. And so the volume, like you said, on Wednesday the 26th, they had about 50 people attend.
And these are the only disaster recovery centers still open.
Still open, right. Okay.
In the state, but that's because this is
the heaviest hit areas. Exactly. Well, Gerard, we appreciate the updates always. We thank you for what y'all are doing and how y'all are helping, and thanks for all the people that are doing that.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Gerard. And that will do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.